This video is sponsored by Pet Peeves, because boy do I have a lot of them. And Pet Peeves would like to remind you that Persona 4 the bad version is on Steam. Wait, did I just say Persona 4 the bad version? Sounds like this video is about to start. Number 1, Persona 4 versus Persona 4 Golden. The basic problem that I have with Persona 4 the Golden versus the original vanilla Persona 4 is that Persona 4 was a game that took 70 hours to tell one complete, concise story, whereas Persona 4 Golden takes 90 hours to tell the exact same story, which, as you can probably imagine, is not really great. If you can't see where I'm coming from, let's go ahead and break that sentence down a little bit further, shall we? 70 hours is already a really long time. With 24 hours in a day, if you just completely played Persona 4 from start to finish without stopping, that would take you just under 3 days. And even then, 70 hours is being generous, because that's assuming that you never die in the entire game. The point I'm trying to make here is that vanilla Persona 4 is a long game that doesn't take very many detours. There's a reason why I call Persona 4 Golden the bad version, and that's because it takes an additional 20 hours to ostensibly tell the exact same story. The additional 20 hours aren't really very well utilized at all because no information is ever being spread during any of them. Take for example the beach scene. Yeah, it's supposed to be goofy and fun and tell you things about the characters, but the problem is that at the point in the game when the beach scene happens, everything that the scene would tell you about these characters, you already know. Yosuke is a perv.
We're at the ocean, which means swimsuits, which means Reset live and in person.
Chie likes meat.
Whoever loses has to buy barbecue on a stick for everyone else.
Kanji gets humiliated.
Holy shit, the wardrobe malfunction was mine!
Risa is in love with Narakami.
Hey, were you checking me out, senpai?
Tei is a pervert.
Hey, Teddy, watch the hands, pal!
Aw, don't be so stingy. I think we're due for a wardrobe malfunction.
Okay, cool, got it. But I already knew all that information, though. Because I was told. You know, through character and gameplay. Through everything that basically happened before this scene. We already know all this stuff, and this stuff doesn't really advance the story. I mean, let's look at the first cutscene in the entire freaking game. No, not that part. I'm talking about the news part, the newscaster part in the background. I mean, listen to what they're saying. They're talking about stuff, you got some banter, and then this guy over here tells you who your character is and where you're going and why you're going there.
So, your mom and dad are busy as always. They're working overseas, was it? I know it's only for a year, but getting stuck in a place like this because of your parents? That's rough being a kid.
These are the things that are happening in the world that you're set in. This is the reason why you're here in the first place. These are the people you're going to be living with. Here's a basic outline of their personality, which will be further explored as the events of the game progress. Got it. In Persona 4 Golden, all of the new information told to you by all of the new scenes is basically everything that you already know. It's just reinforcing stuff that you've already been told, so it doesn't really add any kind of value. It just takes more of your time away.
This is boring.
Now that I've very broadly explained my point, it's time to start giving analogies to see if they make any more sense. Number 2, analogies. Imagine that you have this gigantic big wedding cake, the small cake on top of the medium-sized cake on top of the big cake. It's already pretty big, and it's maybe even kind of tasty, and you like it. Now imagine someone takes an even bigger bottom cake, and then takes the wedding cake and puts it on top of the even bigger base. I mean, the cake's still tasty, but now there's just more of it, and the new base doesn't make the cake any tastier. It just means you have to get rid of more wedding cake, and if nobody eats this gigantic inflation of wedding cake, then you have more to save, and it just takes up more space. You added volume, but it didn't really add any value. Now imagine you're watching a really long movie like Lord of the Rings or something, and you watch it on cable or dish or whatever the heck people watch TV on, and some guy like Gandalf is like, "Come on everybody, we have to go to a place." And then the screen fades out and you start watching a bunch of ads.
For pet messes, OxyClean is a must.
But if you're watching on DVD, the screen wouldn't fade out, you'd just transition to the next screen. That's kind of my problem with Persona 4 Golden. It's like watching a movie with a bunch of ad breaks. You're still watching the exact same story be told. The characters are still going to the same places and they're still doing the same things. But it takes longer to watch the exact same movie because you keep getting interrupted.
If you save one pair of jeans, then OxyClean has paid for itself.
If those two analogies didn't make a whole lot of sense to you, then I'm sorry, we're gonna move on.
Oh, sheesh. How much longer is this gonna take?
Number 3, Good vs. Bad, remakes. I thought about a number of comparisons between Persona 4 Golden and other things, but because I only mentioned 2 analogies, let's keep it concise and only make 2 comparisons. Because they're both games in the same franchise, let's talk about Persona 4 Golden versus Persona 3 FES, both of which were remakes of the original games in the PlayStation 2, but Persona 3 FES was a lot better. Why was Persona 3 FES a lot better? Because Persona 3 FES didn't do anything to the original 70-hour story, it made an additional 30-hour sequel. It didn't make it take longer to tell the exact same story, it told an entirely new story, which complemented the original story. If you weren't really interested in the new story, or you thought that 70 hours of Persona 3 was enough Persona 3 to last a lifetime, then you could still play the original game completely unhindered, because the story was still there, and it still took exactly as much time to go through it as it would have in the original version. But at the same time too, Persona 3 FES also added a new social link, new personas, and new equipment, so even though you were playing Persona 3 again, new stuff was still happening, but it didn't take away from anything, it just added to it. In Persona 4 Golden, all the new stuff is really distracting. Like I said at the beginning, vanilla Persona 4 took 70 hours to tell one complete, concise story. Persona 4 Golden took 90 hours to tell the exact same story, exactly as well, if not worse.
You're the only one saying stuff like that.
Where in Persona 3 FES's case, Persona 3 took 70 hours to tell one complete, concise story, whereas Persona 3 FES took 70 hours to tell the exact same complete, concise story, and then took another 30 hours to tell a completely original story, but comparing Persona games to other Persona games is stupid for some reason, so let's talk about Pokemon instead. And well, if you know me and you know how much I don't like Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, then don't worry, because I'm not going to talk about those games. Instead, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite games, Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red, or Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green for racists. That was supposed to be a joke, I'm sorry. Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red are remakes of the original Pokemon games. They have new items, updated graphics, more skills, more Pokemon, and more places to explore. But wait a second, you say. Persona 4 Golden also added a bunch of new stuff, like new personas, and new social links, and a bunch of other nonsense. But that's kind of the root of the issue that I think too many people miss. I brought up Pokemon for a very specific reason. It's because Pokemon and Persona have one very massive difference between the two of them. Pokemon is an adventure game, while Persona 4 is a narrative-driven game. The point of Pokemon is to explore new regions, catch new Pokemon, and assemble a great team of Pokemon that can help you fight or combat or overcome any given situation and explore more of the world. Whether it's to catch them all or to build the strongest team for PvP, more places to explore and more Pokemon is basically an inherently good thing in almost any given situation. I said almost any. Get that out of here! Persona 4, however, is a narrative-driven game that's about characters growing and changing and self-discovery. I mean, on the surface, it's about catching a serial killer, but the greater themes of the game revolve around dealing with societal expectations, not knowing what you want to do with your life, being judged harshly by an oppressive world, or dealing with different kinds of people and situations, dealing with people you don't like, dealing with loss, dealing with the stresses and difficulties of running a job, dealing with the stress and difficulties of being a morally good person, questioning what is morally good and what isn't, and ultimately overcoming obstacles and deciding to pave your own way in life, to decide to be considerate even though it's hard, or deciding when to put your foot down even with someone that's your friend or someone that you don't think you should, being able to look at things objectively, or at least being able to understand that there's 2 sides to any situation, or sometimes there's 3 sides, or sometimes there's 4 sides. Who do you trust? What if you don't like what you see? What if you're actually the bad guy? That's kind of my bigger problem with Persona 4 Golden versus Persona 4. Persona 4 told a really good story in 70 hours, which is already a long time. Persona 4 Golden tells the exact same story in 70 hours, with 20 hours of ad breaks. It's for reasons like that I say these news scenes don't add anything. I mean, sure, stuff is happening, and you're being told stuff like, oh, this character is stupid, but you already knew all this information. Nothing was really learned. Nothing was gained. The characters didn't grow or change at all. But in the next scene they grow and change, so why didn't I just skip right to the next scene? Why'd I have to sit through all of this when the important stuff happens next? Why couldn't I just see the important stuff?
You see, a guy named William Shakespeare once said, "Brevity is the soul of wit." This just means don't waste my time.
And that's ultimately the reason why I say Persona 4 Golden is Persona 4 the bad version. I mean, it's still good. The 70 hours of things that was actually important is still in Persona 4 Golden, but it's just now it takes longer to get to, and the pacing is all screwed up. And now instead of having to mash X to get through 1 or 2 really stupid scenes that I didn't like, I have to mash X to get through 20 hours of stupid scenes I didn't like. The ending is still really heartwarming, and I still really like these characters. But for God's sakes, I don't care about the never-ending process of them getting driver's licenses, or going ski-boarding for 10 hours, or making just millions and millions of pointless gay jokes.
Whoa, dude, stop it! What the hell are you doing? Quit fooling around!
We have to find out, right, Senpai?
No! Sensei, stop it! You'll fall in!
Get on with it! While I certainly don't like Persona 4 Golden, I certainly think there's a lot of really pointless, stupid stuff in it. There's still the 70 hours of the original game to be found in Persona 4 Golden. Ultimately, I would say that my facetious comment of Persona 4 the bad version is completely on the mark, because it's still Persona 4. It's still got good stuff in it. It's just the bad version. At least it's not Persona 5. There's no good version of that game. Hey, you watched my video. Thanks. If you liked it, please let me know by giving the video a thumbs up, or even subscribing if you feel like it. And if you're bored, you could watch another one of my videos. Or not. That's cool too. Time to make history sucks!